Hey guys, welcome back to Margot Watches Movies. My name's Jake, and tonight I'm not going to be talking about a movie. I'm going to be talking about a episode of television from HBO's The Last of Us, episode 2, season 2. And I have this still up of Game Ellie and Game Jesse, but I don't want to get into the game versus show comparisons right now. I just want to talk about this episode on its own merits. And this was a truly insane episode of television. There was scale and technical marvel on display I wasn't really expecting, to be honest, when this episode kicked off. I had my expectations of what to expect. Most of us gaming fans did, namely involving a golf swing. But the changes this episode made, the Battle of Jackson, this was truly large scale popcorn spectacle, entertainment, edge of your seat tension that only HBO can provide. This was the largest I've seen. I've seen some people compare it to, was it episode 2 or episode 3 of the awful season 8 of Game of Thrones. This was much better than that. This was more akin to Battle of the Bastards for me. I was blown away by the effects that they were able to accomplish. This episode must have cost north of 40 million, 50 million, I don't know, but all the money was laid on the screen. They didn't hide it in the dark of night. It was all there in this dreary, snow-soaked Wyoming mountainscape, and this was great television, guys. Now, there's some things that we'll get into, but just for people who didn't play the game, I would imagine they were just blown away. And then you obviously have the ending scene. There's a lot of emotion there. And as a fan of the game, it was something I was dreading from when they announced it back in season 1 that they were making this show. And I do have some concerns that I'll get to in a little bit about the rest of the season, namely because of this. But as far as the episode goes, you know, I mean, this was a 9.5 out of 10, maybe a 10 out of 10. I'll say a 9.5 out of 10 because I have a couple of slight issues, but this is just coming from someone who's a huge fan of the games. Really, the first one is one of my favorite games ever, but I have played part 2 3 times. So, but just to recap a little, the choices they've made, they've given more context to Abby as a character early. You know, in the game, she was played as this enigma. She had all this mystery shrouding her. You're forced to play with her early on in the prologue, and you really don't know what she's doing there or why. And then, and we'll get a big spoiler warning here, when she runs into Joel and ends up, you know, killing him, you're just like, what the fuck? Why did this happen? And the show handles it a lot better. You know right from the get-go what her motivations are. If you're paying attention at all, you could guess that the doctor killed was her dad, and they really spell it out there at the start of the show. But it was a dream sequence taken pretty much note for note out of the game. And Caitlin Danvers here as Abby, I think, is a more believable television person, because Abby in the game, I mean, she is like an NFL middle linebacker. She's huge. She's one-punching zombies with her fists, and you're just killing them. But this is a more realistic portrayal, and I think she's doing a really good job. I know that there's going to be a lot of people hating on her, but just from a pure acting standpoint, she brought a lot of pathos to the role. You really understood her motivation. You really understood the pain that she was going through, that Joel caused from that hospital scene. And again, they didn't give Joel a chance to state why he did it. It wasn't as bad as the game, and I don't think it would have mattered. She would have killed him anyway, but maybe they're saving that for later. But I mean, her dad was going to kill a unarmed 14-year-old girl, so you can understand Joel's motivations. And the show, just like the game, has not really done the best job of like screaming that. It's like, and you'll probably see why if they stick to the original ending, why they want that. But I just, as far as the episode goes, I was blown away. I was. It's a technical marvel. The direction by Mark Mylod was pristine, and he created a lot of tension in areas I wasn't expecting to, namely the Battle of Jackson. I was actually worried for Tommy. I was worried for his wife. Why am I forgetting her name? And I was worried for a lot of the town people, and some of them got yeeted on. And there was a few changes made, really, like in the pairing of these these little search parties that go out. You have Joel with Dina, and in the game you had Joel with Tommy. So when Abby is running through that chain link fence, which was basically a shot-for-shot recreation from the game, and Joel rescues her, he's there with Tommy, and you have this little like combat fight scene as Abby, who you're playing with, and you're with Joel and Tommy, and then you go back to where I'll call them the Jackson Five, Abby's friends, Mel, the girl who injected the shot into Dina to put her to sleep. You have Nora, who's the lady with the bald head. You have Owen, and you'll get more into him. I really liked Owen in the game. And you have Manny, who I kind of liked in the game as well. After the fact, I really hated him at first. But so you switch up Jesse, as pictured here in the game. He's paired with Ellie, as pictured here in the game. And when you see these two character models, they look like peers. And I just have an issue with Bella Ramsey as Ellie. She does have some good pizzazz to her, but I just think it's been a pretty one-note performance so far in season 2. She's not very likable. She's all sass, no heart, at least for now. Now, she did sell the hell out of Joel's death scene. She had me there, and it was remarkable acting on her part, and I'll give her credit where credit's due. But she's just not bringing that same that three-dimensional element where you have the rage, you have the sass, and you have the heart that Ashley Johnson brought as Ellie in the game. And now that Pedro as Joel is out of the picture, I'm very worried about Bella having to carry the majority of the emotional weight of this season, because it's going to be a very heavy season of television. It's going to be Game of Thrones level stuff going on. Deaths, betrayals, all that stuff is coming. And I'm just not buying it yet. I'll be happy to be proven wrong, but I'm very worried with how one note her performance has been so far. So, besides that, we get the switching of Joel and Dina, which again, I don't know how that's going to work for Tommy, because a lot of his motivation in the game and the events that take place, it makes sense because he was there, he saw it, he saw the Jackson Five. I don't know if he actually saw them kill him, he might have been knocked out, but he got to look at the faces, and it was a first-hand account for him, a personal account for him. First, it's going to be Jesse, Ellie, and Dina going back and recounting it for him, basically. I just don't see that as the same motivation for him to do what he does. But the positive of switching this is you don't have the character assassination of Joel that you get in the game, where he is the one that reveals to this Abby girl who looks militant. Joel from the first game was very, this guy that survived a post-apocalyptic wasteland for 2 decades. And for him in the game to just be like, well, I'm Joel Miller. Nice to meet you. I was in Utah just a few years back. And just give his whole persona away, and that's how Abby pieces it together. It worked much better having Dina there. She doesn't even really know that Joel has found Abby. When she's going through the chain link fence, he shoots the zombie in the head. And she calls out to him because she's worried. Joel, where are you? And for Abby to be able to piece it together that way, you don't do it at the cost of the fantastic writing that built up Joel in the first game, in the first series, in the first season. So I thought that was a much better change. And the way that the death went down to me, because again, you know Abby's motivations, there's obviously shock to it. And I know a lot of people who didn't play the game are going to be absolutely just dumbfounded that happened. Welcome to life as us gamers that were just floored when that happened, and not the good kind. But you get the understanding, you get the motivation, so you get why she's doing it. And I think, Craig Mazin being here is probably a big help. I'm not the biggest fan of Neil Druckmann. He's given us some great moments, but he had a co-creative director in the first game who got pushed out in the second game. So I think Craig Mazin, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. I know some people who are big fans of the game will know him, the gentleman that got pushed out. But Craig Mazin's kind of stepping in and saying, no, we need to tinker here, we need to tinker there. And I think what the changes they made this hit more in the way it intended. There's still some big concerns moving forward, namely, and I don't want to pick on her because she's a 21-year-old young lady, young female, but I just don't see the dimensions needed to take Ellie on the journey that she's about to go through, which is going to be hell. And besides that, though, you just want to look at this episode singularly as one episode on a week-to-week journey. It was remarkable. It was an incredible episode of television. It was Game of Thrones-esque in the scale and the battles and the emotions and the shock, right? And there were some really good performances. And I think, Tommy and the Luna brother, that's probably, if the show is smart, they will put more emphasis on him. And I apologize for my dog Hamilton scratching, but if the show is smart, they will give him a little bit more screen time than the game did moving past this point, because he is a really good actor and he has really embodied the role of Tommy. So I'm curious to see where we're going. Overall, though, just singling out this episode, it's a 9.5 out of 10. This is big scale stuff you would think about watching in IMAX in a movie theater, and you're getting it from the comfort of your couch, something that really only HBO is capable of. So that's all for my review of episode 2 of The Last of Us Season 2. This is Margo Watches Movies. If you like my review, you want to give me a like, you want to give me a subscribe, that'd be appreciated. But other than that, you have a good one, and we'll see you.